Hello, everyone. Welcome to Wednesday's ESPN FC Live. We're on Champions League semi-final watch. Today, it's Barcelona against Inter. Yesterday, it was Arsenal against Paris Saint-Germain. To discuss, Luis Miguel Echegaray and Don Hutchison. Don, let's start with you, and let's go back to the 1st of October. Arsenal beat PSG by 2-0. It was a good win. It was a relatively comfortable win. But yesterday, they lost by 1-0, and PSG, for a lot of the game, dominated possession, and it was a comfortable win for them. So what changed in the intervening period?
Well, he had his best players back for a start, but I think what you saw in that group phase, I think very early on, is not a lot of teams knew how to manage the scenario, because 2 or 3 games in, everyone thought, oh, it's all right, there's about 64 million games left, so we will still qualify. But I think what you're seeing now at the business end, you're seeing a Paris Saint-Germain midfield. I think it's the best. I can't remember a time where I'm looking at a 3-man midfield thinking they're all technically outstanding. Normally, a manager would try and put one destroyer in there to try and have the balance, but Luis Enrique's gone, no, I want 3 players that are brilliant on the ball. They dominated Arsenal for about 40 minutes of the game last night. At times, they bopped them off the pitch. At any given time, it looked like we're going to score. They've got the 2 best fullbacks in world football, probably arguably the 2 best wide men in football with Kvaratskhelia, and if Dembele can float on that side, or a false 9, or Doué, I mean, they've got so much talent. And I just think you're looking at a team that's got everything. Marquinhos at the back. I mean, they look like the perfect side, which is the irony of where they were 18 months ago when they tried to buy all the Galacticos and it never worked.
It's funny, they've become a better side without Mbappe, and Real Madrid have become a worse side so far this season with Mbappe. That's certainly something to discuss later. But LME, when you look at this game, and Arsenal were on top with some of the criteria of shots and attempts on target. However, they really missed a Thomas Partey type player, didn't he? He was suspended. Will he make a difference in the way that Arsenal will approach the second leg? Because they had to kind of play Marino in that role last night, and it didn't really work. They were overrun in midfield.
Yeah, Thomas Partey's absence was big, MD. There's no doubt about it. Specifically in those first 20 minutes when PSG, just rightly so, just were all in the face of the Gunners, as Don was mentioning. They're just such a force. And Luis Enrique, if anything, loves to punch you early. It happened against Villa in the first leg and in the second, and it happened against Arsenal as well. In the 20 minutes, Arsenal just couldn't cope. And in fact, the opening goal was a result of so many opening opportunities in that midfield, and Partey not being there forced Declan Rice, who had a good game, but when he sits a little deeper, he's not allowed to be as lethal as he was against Real Madrid. And so when Partey's there, he can at least fortify that midfield for Arsenal. But who are we kidding? This is PSG, and I've said it for a while now. To me, in my opinion, on their day, they're the best team in Europe. They are just such a force. And I think that also, because I was reading so many reactions from the game yesterday, how Arsenal fans were disappointed, shocked at the lack of impetus that they could put in the game. But you're playing PSG. You're playing such a machine that you are lucky, actually, that you only conceded a goal. Kvaratskhelia could have had a penalty in those first 20 minutes. Desiree Doué, who's just a tremendous teenager, he hit the post. They had their chances, and Donnarumma obviously played a part. He's such a good goalkeeper. But this PSG side is so good. So I think that the great thing about this second leg of Parc des Princes is that they're only 1-0 down, because it could have been much worse. I see PSG still in the final. To your point, I think Partey will be able to help them in the second leg, but it's PSG's match to lose. They are just such a formidable team, and they're better off it without Kylian Mbappe.
Don, what did you make of the atmosphere last night? Because on more than one occasion, I saw Arteta, I saw Martinelli, I saw Raya trying to G up the crowd. And I thought the atmosphere against Real Madrid was brilliant in the previous round, but it got better as the game wore on, especially when they went 2-0 up. The fact they conceded early last night didn't help, albeit the fans trying to get on their side. But how difficult was it for these supporters when you see the opposition having so much of the ball to still try and get behind your side like they did when they were 2-0 up at home to Real Madrid?
See, that's key. That's why PSG are such a good side, because obviously they got the early goal, which give them a little bit of confidence and give them that shot of confidence. But the best thing they've done in the first half an hour of the game is they kept hold of the ball. And every time Arsenal got like a throw in or a corner, they could get up for that sort of mini 10, 15 seconds, and straight away PSG would get stranglehold in possession again. and the crowd had no momentum. They couldn't get engaged in the game. The Arsenal fans, they were sort of trying, but they were relying on their team having moments. They couldn't really lift them. I wouldn't necessarily criticize the Arsenal fans for that. I would say how well done PSG managed the scenario. I thought they strangled the life out of the game with the early goal. But what they've done is they said, right, any given time, we're going to keep the ball, and we don't mind keeping the ball 60 yards away from your goal. We'll keep it on the edge of our box. We'll make little triangles. And all of a sudden, Trossard was running out of position, and they looked leggy in midfield apart from Declan Rice. They couldn't close down, and PSG were brave, and they were popping the passes. And it was like 15 passes, 20 passes, 15 passes, 20 passes. And the Arsenal fans are sitting there going, like, when can we get engaged in this game? Couldn't. They probably had 5 minutes before half-time and about 10, 15 maximum after that. The rest of the game was all PSG, and you have to credit them for doing it.
Sure, it's not a criticism of the Arsenal fans. We've all been there. It's so much easier to get behind your side when you're in the stands if you see something on the pitch that you can get behind. But when a team comes to your own stadium and dictates, it's very difficult because you want to kind of cheer despite the fact that no one else around you is kind of cheering. So that certainly helped PSG. Here's one for you, LME. Paris Saint-Germain last night were the 14th team to win a Champions League semi-final on the road in the first leg. Only two, Ajax in 2018-19 against Spurs and Panathinaikos in 95-96 against Ajax, were able to not capitalize on their first leg victory and reach the final. So all the eggs are in PSG's basket. However, Liverpool went to Paris and won. Is it going to be something similar to that game? Do you expect loads of possession for PSG? And Liverpool, well, they might have won, but Arsenal are going to need that luck in this second leg, and they're going to need to ensure that they're clinical in front of goal because the tie's not over yet.
No, it's not over. It's only 1-0. But, this is definitely favoring PSG to finish this up at Parc des Princes. And you could have very much a possession-centric PSG, but one most importantly that just wants to get you from the get-go. Here's the key thing for Arsenal in the second leg. Do not concede early once again, because PSG, as soon as that whistle goes, they're going to come at you once again. And it doesn't matter if Dembele is healthy or not. They still have Barcola. They still have Kvaratskhelia. They've still got all these weapons. Doué, of course, the midfield, the best fullbacks, as Don was talking about, in Hakimi and Nuno Mendes. They're going to come at you very early on. So you have to make sure that you settle everything, that you calm the stadium down, because that stadium is going to be rocking. Because guess what? Arsenal are dying for that first ever Champions League trophy, but so are PSG. They want this really, really badly. So just hold everything for 20 minutes. Just make it close, and then hopefully build into it. And hopefully Mikel Arteta can say to them, listen, boys, we went to the Bernabeu. I know that we were leading by 3 goals, but we had to hold, the defending champions here, and we did that. Let's do it again here in Paris. Partey is going to be a key factor, and I think that they just have to make sure that they don't over-rely on Bukayo Saka. Because what Luis Enrique did yesterday was look, everything is going down that right wing, so let's double up on Saka and hope that they just pass it to somebody else and we'll take care of business. And that's exactly what happened. So don't concede early. Try and be a little bit more diversified in your attack. Get Martinelli more involved, and hopefully you can come out of something. But if you're asking me right now, PSG is going to be in this final. They're just too good.
They should be, but stranger things have happened. Don,
Yep.
Before we look at PSG, let's take a look at Arsenal and where they are and what they need. Because I don't think they're far away. I don't think they're far away from a proper title challenge, but they need a striker. I think the left side of their team needs improved. They've got a really good midfield. They've got a decent defense when everybody's fit. How many players are they away from potentially being favourites in a Champions League semi-final? Not that they were this time. And potentially challenging for a Premier League title. How many players away?
3. And I disagree with they've got a great midfield. I'm not too sure Marino's a fantastic midfield, but I think he's good. But
He's a squad player. When everyone's fit, he's not going to start. When everybody's fit, you've got Declan Rice, you've got Martin Odegaard. Okay, so you've got decent ones in there. Well,
if you're an Arsenal fan, that's the one player, which I don't agree with, by the way. That's the one player they're starting to get on the backs of Odegaard. They think he's slow, he's predictable, he slows things down. He didn't have a good game last night. I mean, who would, to be fair, against that PSG midfield? But Thomas Partey's contract's up at the end of the season, so he might not be there. So they're going to need to buy a stellar holding midfield player. So you think, right, if that midfield's going to be strong next season, they're going to need a holding midfield player. 100% they're going to need a number 9, and they need competition on their left-hand side. Which I think is the way to go, but I don't think Arteta sees it the same way. I think Nwaneri could play on that side instead of Martinelli. Then you'd have Nwaneri on the left-hand side. You have Bukayo on the right-hand side, and a number 9. So if he doesn't, and he sees Nwaneri as backup to Bukayo Saka, then he's going to need another left-sided player. So you're looking at 3 players if they're going to be contenders for a Champions League final and trying to win the Premier League next season, because we've sat here for years and everyone sort of skewed the stats when they've gone, oh, yeah, but they've still scored 80-odd goals. They don't have a striker. They don't have a world-class striker. You're asking Trossard to be a world-class striker against Marquinhos. You're asking Marino to play as a false 9 up against some of the best centre-backs, and he's done a pretty good job, but it's not his position. You've seen how much he struggled last night when you ask a midfield player to go and play as a false 9 for 6 weeks, then against PSG, gone trying to be a midfielder, trying to do a completely different job. So I think, to answer your question, at least 3.
Yeah, the midfield, whether it's Partey and Rice or whether it's Odegaard playing in a deeper role, it's something they need to kind of strengthen in front of them, whether they're playing a 4-3-3 or they're playing Saka on the right, which he probably will, left-hand side Martinelli, LME, it's the Trossard thing that gets me, in that he's a good player. He's a very good Premier League player. He'll get you goals there, but he's not someone you want to go in, and it's nothing against him, but you can't go into a Champions League semi-final when you're facing the likes of Dembele and Doué and others, and Kvaratskhelia, when you've got Leandro Trossard as someone that you're going to get goals from.
Yeah, and not only the Champions League semi-final, MD, but let's remember, 13 draws in the Premier League this season. They've given away so many points. And I said it from the very beginning, and we keep saying it over and over again. Arsenal are a very, very good team. They're a Champions League worthy team. But if you want to win a trophy, if you want to win the Premier League, you need a complete squad. And I'm pretty much in tangent with what Don's talking about. With the number 1 priority, you need a number 9 who can get you out of situations in ugly moments. Not just a good 9, not just a talented one, but a world-class striker that can get you goals. In answer to your question about Trossard, because Bukayo Saka demands so much attention on the right wing, but he's also inconsistent in terms of his health. You're not always going to be able to rely on him, for the entire season. Martinelli is a wonderful talent, but again, he's also inconsistent. You need a 9 that can get you out of situations whenever it's sticky and it's 1-1, or you're chasing something and somebody out of somewhere can get you something. So I think that's the main component. Arsenal are a very good team. They are a great project, but they're not right now a champion. They can be, but they need to be smart this summer.
He reminds me of Jota at Liverpool, Trossard. Yeah. He reminds me of Jota.
Really good player.
Really good player.
Do a lot of different things, but you don't want to rely on him to get 20 goals a season.
That's what I mean. That's what I mean. So you have to go into the market. And what you would do when you go in the market is not only you strengthen your side, but psychologically, everyone around will go, let's just say it's Gyökeres, who's just hit 60 and 60. Let's say Arsenal buy him. And all of a sudden, everyone around the Premier League goes, oh, my days, what a centre-forward they've just bought. So psychologically, it's going to boost the Arsenal fans if they see someone that's prolific come through the door, because that's what they've been shouting from the rooftops for the last 5 years, what they've needed, which is absolutely right. And the Arsenal fans have been bang on. And so has all the pundits. They do need that number 9. But also it takes one away from the likes of Liverpool, because they'll have to go and try and strengthen and try and get the same sort of numbers, same as Man City. So all the teams that are in the Premier League, and at any given time, if you've got Gyökeres is a number 9, and then he's not playing in a domestic cup competition, but Trossard is, or Martinelli is, that's where the strength and depth comes from. That's why you have to bring in world-class players. It's the only way, Mark, that you win Champions Leagues. Yep. It's the only way you win domestic titles. Honestly, it is. You have to have a team at any given time that you can amalgamate a team and go, right, if we put a Liverpool versus Man United team together, just giving Man U a little shout, because I was chatting about them the other day, and you go, how many players get in the Liverpool team? 0. How many Man United players get into the Newcastle team? Maybe 1, Bruno Fernandes. So Arsenal have got to have the same. When you talk about Arsenal and you talk about Liverpool and you go, right, how many players would get in the Liverpool team? There's probably 2 or 3. Well, you're going to need a lot more than that to go into a domestic title competition against Liverpool and Man City, and maybe another, and then go and win the Champions League. You've got to seriously beef up your first 11 and beef up the squad.
Arsenal are at a crossroads right now. They deserve to be in the semi-final of the Champions League. But that's as good as they are right now. It's kind of on the outside looking in. Now it's up to the board. It's up to those who own the football club and run the football club to support Mikel Arteta, to go and get what he needs to take Arsenal from where they are right now to be proper contenders for both the league and the Champions League. Because you know what? That's what PSG have done. Yeah, they lost Kylian Mbappe, but they have added so well. What about the man management of Luis Enrique, Don, and what he has done with those players? He's got a whole host of young talent at his disposal. He's got a whole host of experienced talent at his disposal, and he's got them playing for him and for each other. And now they've got as much a chance as Barcelona of winning the Champions League. So what's he done?
Well, what he's done, he's got characters like Marquinhos who can run the dressing room for him. So first and foremost, if you're a manager, and because the majority of us players, we spend every single day or the majority of the day in the dressing room with our teammates. You're only on the grass for about an hour and a half tops. So the rest of the time you're in the training ground, you're on a match day, you're in that dressing room with your teammates. You need, as a manager, you need that captain like Marquinhos, who can run the dressing room and keep the culture strong. And then what you do is you buy, or you have young players that will follow your lead, because he's a very good manager, unbelievable footballer, fantastic pedigree. So the players don't look at the coach and saying he's not a winner, because he is. Then they see Marquinhos, who's the captain, who's dragging all the standards up. Then they've added pace, they've added quality. I don't ever get the sense that PSG are carrying any passengers. That's another great thing. And at the same time, I would imagine those young players will look at the manager thinking, like, we've got to follow him. This guy's got one of the best CVs out there. And by the way, as a player, if you want to do your research and go on YouTube and watch any social media sites, how good Luis Enrique was as a player, you'd want to follow him, because he'll tell you how to play football. He'll show you how to play football. And as I said before, he's not conforming to, I must have a destroyer in midfield. I want my teams to dominate the ball. So I'm going to pick brilliant footballers. So you know, if you're going to get in that PSG team, you're not in that team to be like a hod carrier. You're in that team because you're going to be brilliant on the ball. And that's amazing for a player to have when a manager trusts you.
Yeah, I wanted to add something and echo some of the things that Don was talking about regarding Luis Enrique. When his Spanish national team lost to Morocco in the World Cup in 2022, and he left the national team, he went through a massive personal reflection about who he wanted to be as a manager in continuation for whatever club he was about to choose, which is obviously PSG after that. Luis Enrique has, the son of Barcelona. Obviously, we know what he did as a manager as well, with Messi, Neymar, and Lucho Suarez, also the winner of a treble as a manager there. But he was building up his philosophy from just a possession-based centric that Barcelona is all about. And when and the lessons that he learned from being a manager in Spain and entering PSG, he learned one thing, which possession is important, but high-intensity possession and intoxicating your opponent is lethal. And it can be so good as long as you have a team that's collectively all with one objective. So when Kylian Mbappe left, this was his golden opportunity to create a squad that followed one single objective, to be as lethal as possible, like a swarm of wasps. And that's exactly what PSGs are. I remember when the reason why Dembélé didn't play in that game when Arsenal won against PSG back in October was because he was suspended. Luis Enrique suspended him because of things that were going externally, right? Disciplinary issues. What did Dembélé, and Luis Enrique gave Dembélé an option. He said, this is it for you. What are you going to do and react to this? Are you going to rise up and try and be our best player and be a star and Ballon d'Or contender, or are you going to nag and complain? So he did the opposite. He absolutely lived up to expectation, and he followed everything that Luis Enrique was all about. I love Luis Enrique's management because he's not just a manager, he's a teacher. And every single one of these players, doesn't matter whether you're Hakimi or Kvaratskhelia or Vitinha, they're all in on the system. And that's why they're so wonderful to watch. And if they keep on being on it, they're going to absolutely win this Champions League. He's such a good manager that continues to learn, which is amazing.